So this video is called The Real Reason Why People Didn't Watch Rise of the Beast. Okay, obviously, there's the Bayverse, the Nightverse, which technically you could include Transformers 1 as a part of the Nightverse because, even though it's stated to be a prequel or in a separate universe to the Nightverse and Bayverse, nothing with the story of the one verse contradicts the night verse, but it does the Bay verse. But that's besides the point. Basically, a lot of people haven't liked the Transformers prequels, which include the night verse and one verse. The only difference between the prequels and the Bay verse is that the Bay verse has usually average to bad story at worst, but it has more of a it has the stakes are higher, and on top of that, you see more of the world, so better world building. But the night verse is the opposite, where you get in the one verse where you get better story, but less world building. Excluding Transformers One, which is set on our planet. But this video is called The Real Reason Why People Didn't See Rise of the Beast, which is a part of the night verse, and why the Bayverse is more popular. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I love Transformers 3 and 4, but I like Rise of the Beast more, if not equally, and 1 more, if not equally. At times, some of the humor can be kiddie, so maybe a little less, depending on what time of day it is or what day it is.
Said that I don't want to financially support Hasbro or Paramount. The movie looks boring. My interest in the Transformers franchise was for its unique metafiction aspect, which was cut in 2015. The director basically said it was made for Black and Latino people, of which I am neither, and I simply just have better things to do. Nothing about the movie interests me in the slightest, so I don't really plan on seeing Rise of the Beast. So if anyone's wondering what
Now, you could say, right, obviously, what he should have said as an example, I'm black, I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, all black kids haven't watched a movie about slavery and haven't hated white people for once, right? Let's be honest, right? But, obviously, decent members of the black and white community can educate younger black people into doing better. I am 10 years younger than this dude. I am Gen Z, and this dude is clearly a millennial. The dude was trying to say, oh, the director says for black and Latino people. He didn't mean that what Stephen Caple was saying. He wanted to make a movie for black and Latino people, because every other movie has had only a couple black stereotypes, which that can be funny, don't get me wrong, right? I love me a good joke on stereotypes about white people, right? Whether it's in Family Guy or Boondocks, right? But when most of the jokes are toward black people on like a Chris Rock type beat, that's where it's a problem. Of course, Michael Bay changed his ways, and Ironhide, who was obviously white Australian coded, died before Skids and Mudflap, who obviously died in Transformers 4. And Ironhide was a more popular, relevant character than them. And even Brains, who was only relevant in Transformers 4 despite appearing in 3. So, he changed the racism stuff with the whole black guy dying first with the Jazz thing. Well, Jazz isn't really black, but he's black coded. But then they did demote Epps. But basically, Michael Bay has done more non-racist things than racist things that he started out doing. So he's changed his ways. But, that's what Stephen Caple meant, that he wanted to make a movie that could have, no racial stereotypes on non-blacks or blacks, right? But it would include more black characters to relate, And what he meant by that is Mirage concept art for Rise of the Beast. Right, like clearly, right, if you look at this right here, right, this is the concept art for Mirage, and obviously Mirage looks basically the same as this design, as one of these designs without the visor, right? Okay, let's get Jazz, right? Jazz, G1, and Stepper, G G1. Right, obviously, Stepper and Jazz have the same exact toy. Stepper is just a repaint of Jazz with a Target Master, right? Stepper's called Ricochet in America, actually, which does make more sense than Stepper because, all robots are humanoid, all of them can step, or if you mean Stepper in the slang sense, which I don't even think black people even say anymore, so, Ricochet is still more relevant name, honestly. But the character Stepper from Transformers Armada is called Sideswipe in America, despite the fact his toy line, his rival or opposite number, Wheeljack in Armada, is called Rampage in Japan, because Rampage is a good character will turn bad, like Wheeljack in Armada, which makes more sense. Rampage makes more sense. Wheeljack Armada. Wheeljack in Armada's design is the same as G1 Sideswipe, but I guess Wheeljack could make sense considering that they mean like carjacking, carjacking. Despite the fact he is based off Sideswipe, and technically Sideswiping is more evil than, a Wheeljack, unless you're referring to jacking somebody's wheels in a slang sense. But basically, Stepper, who is called Sideswipe in America, Transformers Armada Stepper, who obviously has the same design as Jazz, not his toy, but same exact head and visor as G1 Stepper, has the same design as Jazz. How come Mirage has the same head minus the antennas as G1 Jazz and Armada in the same colors as Armada Stepper, right? The same vehicle mode as G1 Stepper and G1 Jazz, right? The same colors as Armada Stepper, aka Armada Sideswipe if you're watching the dub, not the sub. I don't think that's a bit suspicious. Can't find the meme of Dr. Umar, right? Mirage, voice actor, Rise of the Beast. Obviously, Transformers 2 got flagged for the racial stereotype with Skids and Blood Flat. Obviously, they're two gangbangers, right? They look like minstrel characters, bro. Which that's cool, if you wanna be a gangbanger, do whatever you want, go kill people, just do it, right? If it's your last resort and you're killing bad people, but you're robots, you don't need to gangbang. You can just sell yourself, not in that way. They change into cars and military grade weapons. And that's besides the point. Right, the Mirage voice actor in Rise of the Beast is Pete Davidson, a white dude, right? And I understand why they did that, because in Transformers 4, Brains, who changes into a player who's just, a black Albert Einstein, that was obviously, the only character that could be there, but they didn't want black people to stop watching, because, you don't want, 1/3 of your country, well, more like one third to 1/4 of your country to stop watching your movies, bro. Until you're making billions of dollars. But that's why they had to race swap Jazz, who is Mirage now, right? But Cheetor, look, Cheetor, right? Voice actor, Rise of the Beast, voiced by a black dude, right? Cheetor Cheetor, Beast Wars, right, white dude, obviously, no offense, Trae Young looks like a pretty jolly dude, but, on a serious note, Stephen Caple had to basically race swap two characters, because Jazz, despite the fact he was a cool stereotype, they did not want a black stereotype in the movie, and another thing, Cheetor in Rise of the Beast, where cheetahs from Africa, African black dude voice acting him. Ron Perlman, shout out to his Fallout New Vegas, voice acting. Totally should have been Tiggs dad instead of Opie in Sons of Anarchy, bro. Look, right, Optimus Prime. White people are descended from Neanderthals, which are a mix between cavemen and humans and monkeys. Right, look, right, monkeys wild hair. Right. You see, and don't get me wrong, like I mess with Ron Perlman like heavy. Fallout New Vegas is one of my favorite video games, my top 3. And, I was binge watching Sons of Anarchy. But this is dirty what they did to my boy Ron. You see it's wrong. Right, you see the jokes they be throwing. Right. With Ron Perlman, I did not know I was gonna find this. You see, they got him voicing the gorilla, bro. Right, next. Are hawks found in Asia? Yeah. Air Razor, voice actor. Not the old one in Beast Wars. Look, they got that Asian chick voicing her. Bro, you see what I mean? Right, of course, hawks are found outside of Asia, but like, you see what they be doing? They be, I'm not on no, like, fake pro-black type, stuff. I'm not using pro-black to, get with any snow bunnies. Right, they be sneaking in racial stereotypes. And this dude was saying he's not white, or like, he was throwing a jab, let's be honest. Commander Radiox didn't even know, but he was throwing a jab, like, in there because he thought Stephen Caple was being racist subconsciously when he wasn't. But I'm gonna give it a pass because, this dude is a white dude with a Japanese flag in his background. So, whatever. The dude clearly is in Japan. He's been in Japan for, I think, the last 10 years looking for rice bunnies. So, this dude obviously, wants to watch media, that panders to white people, where they get to be the main character in other countries. Okay, I'll stop. But Homeboy was real condescending. But the real reason why a lot of people don't like Rise of the Beast and the Nightverse is because it's us. It's the niggas. That they want us gone. These nerdy white dudes. Think about it. You're white. And the fact you're white, you're not getting anything extra from it. You're getting shoved in lockers. You gotta think about that, man. So, he don't want to sit and watch Transformers, right? which obviously the toys come from Japan, so it's basically a mecha anime. At this point, anime, right? Asians who make all their main characters white, right? Mario, the mascot of Japanese games, Italian plumber, the most popular anime character. Well, not really the most popular anime character. We want to be technical. Could be Optimus Prime, right? If we really want to be technical, but Goku, white dude, right suit. But we're not including Transformers because that's made in America and Japan simultaneously. But yeah, Commander Radius just took what Stephen Caple said wrong, but the truth is a lot of these nerds who get shoved into lockers do not want to imagine themselves, the main character of their favorite franchise being a black guy. And don't get me wrong, right? If I was a nerdy black guy, you know, I probably wouldn't want to watch any media with white people. Honestly, I would be a Twitter snowflake too. And I'm like semi nerdy, but I can't even lie. I would have to be on some Commander Radix type stuff. But I'm just joking. The dude actually makes good content. You know, he's just not down with all the racial politics. He's been out of America for a while. But that's the real reason why like a lot of right wing people don't be messing with the Nightverse like that. But obviously he's not a part of any wings, anyway, so I gotta respect that. Metal Gear is my religion and government. We must stop the Lale Lalo.